Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. It's Chad Hyams here and Bob Stewart over there. How are you doing today, my friend Bob Stewart?
Chad Hyams. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Bob. You know, I say and. It's Bob and Chad. It's not Bob or Chad. There doesn't have to be a decision that comes from this because you were inspired to create today's episode. Normally we babble. Normally we BS about something just to have some fun and get going. Yet this topic I think is fascinating. I don't want there to be the and. I don't want there to be the or either. I want to make sure that we don't have that. You sent over this topic. You were inspired by something last night that happened.
Yeah, I got a text yesterday from somebody, and her team. She's a real estate agent. She runs a team, and her team is moving their database. Okay. And her question was, should we, we're going to do a call night, she said. We're going to go in and put massive effort into our database for an evening where everybody on the team's going to show up and they're going to spend 3 hours and the call night, right, Chad? And her question was, should we do it before we move out of the old database, or should we do it after we move into the new database?
Right.
And,
logical question. Lots of people have them.
100% logical question. Because I started to answer it, right? I started to answer the question she asked me, Chad, which is which one, right? And I'd probably written out half of the answer. Actually, Chad, I've been doing the new. This is not new, but for me, I'm a text typer. My wife is a voice texter.
Amen.
You're a voice texter. It sounds like I've started to become a voice texter. If it's going to be more than 2 sentences, I don't know why it took me so long.
That's kind of me too. Yep.
I don't know why it took me so long. Anyway, so as
Bob, wait till you do it for your emails also.
What?
Yeah, you can do it for emails too.
But as I'm halfway through my answer to her, I was like, wait a minute. And so I erased the answer and I just replied, why do you have to choose? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you're constrained and you only have these 3 hours and that's it, I could give you an answer of which one I would, lean towards if there were no other options, right? You had to pick A or B. But I think the reality in her situation was she didn't have to pick A or B, Chad, right? And so as we got, I'm like, you don't have to pick. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. How long do you have that other database for? And she's like, well, we through the end of March. And I'm like, then I would do it in both. I would do it before I left the old one, and then I'd do it right after I got into the new one. And I'm not sure why you're forcing yourself to make a decision here. And she ultimately came back and was like, makes a lot of sense. We could
Bob, during the Olympics, which happened recently, I had to look at the TV and say, do I want to watch this or do I want to watch that event? Yet by having Peacock, I could actually watch 4 events at once. They give me the option, right? So I could see all the events I wanted to see and pay attention to. There's a lot of times that we do that, don't we, Bob? I think A or B when we could have A and B.
Yeah. And you hear this a lot, Chad. And as we go through here and talk about some of the places that we see this show up in our businesses, many of these are going to be common things where you and I have both heard people say, well, we're not in the season for that. We're focused on this. And so I wanted to bring up some things today that I think we tend to look at as A or B options, when the reality is maybe there's a C option that can balance both of those things.
Okay. So you put together, I love it, a list. And folks, Bob Stewart has worked with me long enough, and you, audience, have listened long enough to know it's not a top 5 or a top 10. Bob, you did the research as you were sparked with this, because I got this email this morning that said, Chad, I got to talk with everybody about this. And it's the 9 false choices leaders make. Yeah. And I think it's fantastic, Bob, that you did 9. Love you for it. So start us, Bob, through your list. I'll jump in. I'll ask the questions. I'll push back, maybe share an example as we go. What is false choice number 1?
I think false choice number 1 is, are we in a season of growing the business or improving our systems?
Okay.
And Chad, you and I are in real estate. Like every single fourth quarter.
Yep.
We hear this, right? There's not a lot of business. Like this is our slow time of year. And so this is when we're focused on improving our systems. We do this thing in our world. It's called the back office audit, where we the teams that we work with, we kind of audit the systems they're running behind the scenes that, need to be in place if they really want to scale the business. Okay. And it's very common that I hear that, right? They're like, oh, we can't get to that one now. It's the busy season, right? Or it's, we're focused on production right now. And I think this is a false choice. Like the idea that we cannot be improving the systems while we're growing the business, or the idea that the fourth quarter, Chad, is when we really focus on our systems because we don't have as much business then. I just think it's a false choice. One of the things that I heard Ben tell our partners recently is like, and it was related to this kind of back of the house audit on their systems, was, what if every month you just decided to pick one system that you were going to improve, dial in, make sure it scales, and just each month you picked one. Like if you did that, his encouragement to them was, if you did that, like you will look back in 6 months and have a dramatically different business. But some of those people were sitting there going, that's a fourth quarter thing that we do, right? We're just going to run on what we have today. And then when we have some free time kind of out of the business, that we would, work on improving it. And I just think we can do both of these things simultaneously, Chad.
Bob, it makes me think of when I had the pleasure of working on cruise ships. They didn't pull the ship into dry dock regularly to repair the ship. That's where they do repairs on big ships, right? In a dry dock. They repaired the ship as we went. So when we were sailing in the middle of the day, there were guys hanging off the side of the ship. There were guys fixing things in the engine room. There were guys working on things. They didn't say we could go with the ship or we could fix the ship. They said, we're going to do both. We're going to go while we're fixing it. Only if there's a really big hole in it do we take it to dry dock, because then it's going to sink, right? Folks, you don't need to choose, because wouldn't you agree, Bob, that we can grow the business by improving the systems, and therefore it becomes a both, not an or?
Here's what I totally agree. And here's what we see when people kind of force themselves into one or the other. Like you go out and grow the business, and what happens is it's limited or capped by the systems, right? Like they're not scalable. Like I can't handle this many transactions now, Chad, because we've only ever done 5 before, and now we've got 10, right? Well, you're not going to have 12 next month. Like you're going to be limited by that system that kind of caps your growth. So look, the best leaders find a way to have balance between that thing. We can grow the business and work on improving the systems at the same time. All
right, let's keep going. We've got 9 to get through on this call today with everybody. Stay with us. Number 2, Bob, is
we have this false choice, this belief that we have to decide to either hold people accountable or be supportive of them.
You put this one in for me, didn't you?
Yeah. 100%. I know this
is with my empathy and all of that. You put this one in for me.
Yeah, this is your sweet spot, right? Like, look, I think the main reason that this happens is because most businesses don't have standards.
Yes.
Right? Like if you had standards and people join your business with clarity around what those standards are, you're not in this position now where you have to hold them accountable. We have to choose between holding them accountable or being supportive, right? What you're actually doing is supporting them in being accountable to the clarity of the standards that you've set.
Yes.
You don't have to have one or the other. You can absolutely have both, but it comes from this: first, do I have standards? And then second, does everybody that I'm leading know what those standards are? Have they bought into them, Chad? When they signed up, did they agree that this was the standard that they were joining the organization under?
Yeah, you don't have to be a jackass while holding people accountable. And you don't have to be a softy that gets run over while being supportive. This is a both. I can be supportive, Bob, your goal was to do this to help your kids do that. So doesn't it make sense that I ask you how many of those people you talked to today because you had a goal to make it happen? Now I'm being supportive by holding you accountable. Folks, one's not mean and the other's nice. These go together. They are absolutely a both. If you're asking yourself, do I do A or do I do B in this situation? Reevaluate your leadership abilities.
I think of my good friend Jacqueline Smith, and I think she would probably have some point told you like she was really wanting to be supportive of her people and wasn't doing the best job holding them accountable. But I think what she would tell you today is because she has very clear standards, because she's gotten buy-in from the people joining her team on that they are willing to do those standards. Now she firmly believes that if she's not holding them accountable, she's actually not supporting them, Chad, because what she agreed to when they came in was that they were going to meet the standards. And by doing that, they were going to, produce this life that she was, telling them that they could have. And so she thinks today, like, if I don't hold them to the standards, I'm actually letting them down on the promise I made to them when they joined my organization in the first place, right? And so today that support comes in holding them to account.
Absolutely. And congratulations on getting home safely after that flight disaster that she had, if she's listening. All right, Bob, number 3 on this list you put together for us is?
I see this one all the time, and I see constantly people. It's focus on growing the business, the database. Let's call it, Chad. The leads. Do I need new leads, or am I going to work my database? And you and I, because we're
new leads or old leads. New leads or old leads is what you're. Yep.
I would tell everybody right now. Most of you need to improve the database. To like what we already have, we're not taking advantage of.
Yes.
But this is another false choice.
Absolutely.
Listen, this one's tricky because for many of you guys, you do not need to be spending money on more leads. I think that getting people into activity to generate, inquiries into my business, really important, right? In real estate, that's open houses, Chad. It's circle prospecting. It's things that cost us effort and time. They don't cost us money necessarily. But I think a lot of people are like, okay, should I be paying for more leads or should I be working the stuff we have? It's a false choice. Like you can do both. It does require, some consistency. It requires a kind of a standard way that we operate, right? What are those benchmarks for working our database? How do we know if we're doing it well? In our world, we've put a lot of data behind this. We have very clear metrics that show the story of like, do I need more work in the database so I've earned the right to go buy more leads? But these things are like, they happen together. These are choices being made together. Sometimes, by the way, in this lane, you might pick one or the other, Chad, but you're picking work the database so that it's ready to be able to take in the next set of new leads. And then at that point, you're doing both, right? So this one has a little bit of nuance in it, but I don't think it's one or the other. It can be both. Yeah,
it should be a both, right? Because we need to be adding people to our database because there are people falling out of our database because life situations change, job situations change. And this is every industry, folks, right? People are falling out of your database. You can't actually tell me you're talking to all 5,000 people that are still in your database or whatever that would be. Some of them have moved on from you or from opportunities that you provide. So you need to be bringing in new opportunities into that database. Yet if you're not working that database, what's the purpose of bringing in new leads and new opportunities to it? Because you're just wasting them, right? That's people saying, oh, I just want today business and I don't think I'll be here 6 months from now. So why bother working anything other than what's fresh and what's new? This is without doubt a both situation, folks. You should be working both of these opportunities, whatever industry you are in. You got to work your sphere, your database that you already have, and you've got to keep bringing in fresh blood to it. All right, Bob, take us to number 4.
Hire more people
Yeah. Or
get the people I already have more productive.
both.
So both, right? Here's why here's the best scenario where it's a both, Chad. Okay. Like I talk about this all the time in our space, but I think anybody that has a sales team, because we have a software sales team, we have a real estate sales team. I see this in a lot of different sales environments. Okay. When you go and hire, you are generally hiring somebody that either wants to fit, like there's three types of hires you're going to get in a sales environment. You're going to get the first one, which is you never should have hired them. Right? Like you did a bad job interviewing, your screening process is not that good. And when they came in the door, they were destined to fail from the beginning because you made a poor hire. Now, let's assume that's not most of the people we hire, right? But it will be a fraction. The other two buckets then are you get somebody that will join your organization, Chad, and they will look around and they will go, how do I fit in here?
Yep.
And then every once in a while, you'll get lucky and you'll hire somebody that looks around and goes, I want to be number one. They're super competitive. They're like, who's number one right now? I want to be number one. And it doesn't matter what the metric is, right? Could be number of calls, could be number of sales, doesn't matter. They're just like, I want to be number one. We don't get those people very often. But if I hire the average person, so most people that come in go, what do I got to do to fit in around here? Yep. If I hire the average person to a non-productive environment or a low production environment or even an average production environment, Chad, they're going to look around and go, okay, I can do this low amount of production and I'll fit in. Nobody will bother me and I'll be good, right? Or I can be this average person. I can fit in and nobody will bother me and I'll be good. That is really dangerous if I'm exclusively focused on hiring new people and I'm not worried about the production of what's happening already, because I start to hire. We see this all the time in the beginning of partnerships at Place. They're like, yeah, I want to recruit, get them in here. And I'm like, yeah, but you're bringing them into this production environment that is not very honed, let's call it. Okay. So this is absolutely a both thing. Like you're constantly working to make the people you have in your world more productive. Like that's literally why you're showing up every day and you're coaching them and go ahead.
This is every industry.
Yeah.
I was a waiter for years. And how often were our managers talking about expanding the restaurant, talking about squeezing in more tables somewhere? Therefore, they had to hire more people because we needed to get more servers to keep yet at the same time, they had to get the servers more productive, because if I had 4 people selling $100 average a table, just making numbers. Okay, if I had a 5th person, great. But what happens if I had a 5th person and take everybody up to $150 a table?
We can add a glass of wine to every table because we think to ask if they'd like wine with their dinner, right?
There you go. We can do and should do both, because by adding more and then increasing the production of all, the numbers exponentially will grow. This is a both in whatever industry you are in, especially if you're looking to Winmaker.
And here's the real danger of leaning in to hire more people. When you hire more people into a chaotic production environment, Chad, it just magnifies the chaos. It doesn't, it's not like it's dangerous, like almost to a point of, just grinding the operation to a halt. Like it's that dangerous, mostly because the people coming in are just exposed to chaos right away, right? They're like, oh, we don't really even show up around here. This is amazing. Like we make 3 calls a day around here. And we see this, like I've seen this over a 10-year span on our sales team in the software side of our business, where I think there's been times where we were not as productive and those new people coming in go, oh, okay, we kind of hang out around here. And there have been other times where it's like, today would be a good example of that, where it's like, okay, the new people joining see this activity level and this production that they, are able to tap into, and new people coming into a more productive environment will always produce more.
Yes. 100%. Any industry, right? And car sales, I don't care. Insurance sales, it doesn't matter. Bob, number 5 on our list.
we're gonna have an 8 list because I think one of these has a little bit of a. So number 5, Chad, move fast or get it right.
Okay.
And I think like what you see here is a lot of people fall into like one really side of this or the other, right? You and I have both worked with plenty of people who are like, we can't do this thing until it's totally right.
Get ready to aim, to aim, to aim, to aim. Let's get ready again and aim. Right.
And they always operate like that. They very rarely get anything out or produced because it's got to be perfect. And I think on the flip side, we've also been exposed to individuals that are like, it doesn't matter. We're doing it. And both of those can create, the get it right side, we become stagnant. We just don't do very many things to try to actually move the business forward because we're too busy planning the things. I think on the other side, if you're constantly moving fast, it can create a lot of chaos too. To me, these things are a balance, Chad, right?
You've got a great quote here, Bob, that goes with it. I love this. Go fast enough to learn and slow enough to avoid stupid.
Yeah.
Look, folks, I can prove this is every industry. Bob and I could get it right and literally script every episode of Win, Make, Give, where we're just reading words because we got it right. Yes, we should do some of that, right? We can't just make up statistics. We've got to do some research. Bob, we should move fast. Let's get the next episode going. That's what brings energy. That's what brings the authenticity of these. That's what brings with the jokes that come up on these for us and for our audience. We move fast and get it right. We do both. Bob, you said you're taking it down to an 8 list on the fly. I'm going to adjust you and bring you down to a 7 list.
Okay.
Because I think you have another one here that basically says the same thing in different words.
Okay.
And that's, do we wait until we're ready or do we start now? Right? You've got on your list here, do we wait until we're ready or do we start now? And that sounds very much like, do we go fast or do we get it right? Right? Get it right. Do we wait? Do we have to make sure it's all right? Or do we move fast, which is start right away? So I'm merging those together and taking your list. Is there anything you want to add by merging in kind of that wait till we're ready or do we start now? It should absolutely, again, be a both.
Here's why and the more I think about this, you're right? It's like, just start doing something, right? So I think on the, is everything, what number was that earlier? Move faster, get it right.
Yeah. Number 5.
A lot of times we won't start doing anything, Chad, in that scenario until we know everything's in place.
Yep.
And what I've learned over a lot of years of launching products, of launching teams, of launching things is it just takes action to get started always.
Yes.
Right. Even when I don't, and Ben's so great at this. It's like, even when I don't know what the 7th step is, that's okay. I can take the first 3 steps before I need to know what step 7
right.
is.
You've got 4 steps to figure it out still before you get there. You've got to get started. So
we're in our world, we're never really fully ready. Because we can always think of, well, what's the next step? What's the next step? What are the problems that could come from step 7? And so what happens is we get paralyzed to even start the thing because we're so concerned about, I guess, getting it right, but that we're ready to even start. And I just think that the people that, live the biggest lives, Chad, the people that build the biggest things, they start.
Bob, how fast does the environment change? And I don't mean the trees, they don't. Yet, I mean, social media, AI, right? What works, laws, things like that, they're changing rapidly all over the place. So if you're waiting to get it right or waiting to be ready, by the time you are quote unquote ready, things have probably changed. So you were better off to get started and make changes on the fly. And this is where it's a both, not move too fast, because then you're worrying about step 7. It's just get started and get moving. So folks, we've got number 1, do I grow my business or improve my business systems? Number 2, do we hold people accountable or do we be supportive? Number 3, do we focus on the new opportunities or work the database of past opportunities? Number 4, do we hire more people or do we get those people more productive that we already have? Number 5, do we move fast or get it right? Do we wait until we're ready or do we start right away with it? Bob, number 6, you've got here. Go ahead.
Protect culture or push performance. And I think this, by the way, also ties, pretty closely to that idea of, am I holding people accountable or being supportive? But
sure.
Here's my different take on this, because I hear this one all the time. Okay. Ben hears this one all the time. We have a certain culture here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If we look at all our episodes from the last 3 months, every third episode probably is a culture conversation.
Yeah. I heard Ben say this recently. It might have been we do this big event like once a quarter, maybe we do it 3 times a year, where people do a massive amount of activity to earn their way into this event, Chad.
Right.
And he said this a number of times at the event itself, that we have a culture of productivity.
And Bob, I just want you to know, he said that 18 years ago when we first started working together and he was building our offices.
Yeah. Like, our culture is productivity. And so if that's the culture that you have, you don't have to make a choice here. Like, this is a false choice that I've got this culture I need to protect, so I cannot push people to be, more excellent in their performance. What if, Chad, you just had a culture of performance? Then there's no choice to be made here, right? Like, we're literally letting down our culture if we're allowing people to underperform.
That absolutely. And Bob, even if we don't have a culture of performance or productivity, culture is performance. If our culture is we're a family, okay, great. How do we push that performance? We push it by doing more activities with our people. We push it by doing this. And doesn't everybody want everyone to succeed? So then we can actually push productivity as well. So it depends which words you want to use in there, performance versus productivity.
I found this, I found like just to me, like a very poignant quote around culture, which is, culture is what you tolerate. So like, in that scenario, when we think about Ben saying, look, our organization like, we have a culture of productivity. Yes. If you don't have a culture of productivity, like, to me, by default, then you have the opposite of that, right? Like, if your culture is not productivity and you tolerate people showing up being non-productive, you actually have a culture of non-productivity.
I think the only organization out there that wants a culture of non-productivity are the gym memberships, right? They just want you to buy a gym membership and then never show up.
Yeah, way easier if nobody comes to the gym.
You don't waste the machines and damage their products. So they're like, great, we'll have a culture of not showing up. Otherwise, I don't know any industry that has a culture that says, we hope you never show up. Which means you have to be pushing performance without doubt.
But again, I would remind you that if you're not doing that and your culture does not include, then you likely have the opposite, because you're tolerating non-productivity, which essentially culture becomes what you're willing to tolerate.
All right, Bob, this one is absolutely the last one. And it's absolutely the right one to be the last one as you put this together and you brought this all to a close. Number 7 on what just went from being the 9, because we merged a few, to being the 7 false choices of leadership. Bob, what's this last one?
It's this false choice between confidence and humility, Chad.
Yes.
This idea that, like, I can't be both humble and confident. I actually, I didn't mean for this to be like a recent story, but I've been telling some folks around here, I got humbled recently in my job.
Okay.
And look, I like to think, and I think it's weird to say, like, I'm a very humble guy. I think that's probably an opinion that other people should be telling you or letting you know, right? So, but look, we've hired a lot of smart people around here. I'm constantly deferring to people here now, where I would say 8 years ago I wasn't deferring much, right? I think there's a lot of smart people that know answers around here today better than I do, and I'm humble enough to know when that's the case and say, you know what, I don't know that answer. That's a really great answer for Kyle Shores. He's super smart in that deal. But the other day, I came into this thing with a lot of confidence, and I was humbled, Chad. It was by one of our clients. They were a cancel threat. I was sent in to try to save them. I kind of ran a playbook that I'm used to running in these environments, and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, they had your playbook, and they were sacking you and blocking
they were
everything.
Ready for every play. And yeah, they were ready for every play. They had valid pushback on things. And I really walked out. Look, I didn't walk out of there with my confidence shook. Maybe for a little bit. Maybe for the first hour after that conversation, my confidence was slightly shook. But I definitely, in that environment, like, had to immediately switch from confidence to humility, right? Yeah. And these things, I think I was still confident as I humbled myself, but this is not an either or thing. I think you can show up most days with an incredible amount of confidence, which, by the way, leads to like strong opinions, Chad. I have very strong opinions on things, but something I've become better at recently is those opinions are open to change.
Yes.
That's the humility, right? I get to engage some of the biggest real estate businesses in the world. And like the idea that I know everything is insane, right? I do have to show up with a certain amount of confidence so that these people, you too, right? So the people like have a trust in you. But sometimes they bring something where I'm like, holy cow, I have to be humble enough to realize like they're actually doing something pretty smart. Like it could literally change everything that we do here because of this thing that this really top-notch organization has brought to us, right? So we're never above around here. And I think this comes from Ben and Chris, two of the most confident, humble people that we know.
There's a difference between confident and arrogant, right? And that's something to make very clear here, folks. Ben, Chris, they are confident. They are also humble, right? It's not me, it's the team. It's not I did it, it's we did it. That's where humility is showing up. Bob gave a great one. And Bob, I'm going to take this left field a little bit on us here. You mentioned you are confident, which means you have strong opinions. Yet you are humble, which means, and those opinions are willing to be changed if something better is truly shown. That's the problem with the world today. People are and/or-ing this one. They're not both-ing, which is why our Republicans will scream one thing and don't care what a Democrat says, and our Democrats will scream one thing and don't care what our Republicans said. What if you are confident and humble, meaning this is what I believe, yet I'm actually willing to listen to what you have to say?
I mean, go into any comment thread on the internet today, and humility is massively lacking. Like there is very little humility. People are absolutely.
I made a comment on someone's post recently about the Team Canada, Team USA gold medal hockey match. I made a comment about how Canada was the better team, even though Hellebuck won the game for us because he was the best player on the ice, and that's what can happen. Okay. This guy attacked me like I am a flag-waving Canadian booing the American national anthem and that I should leave the country and go back to Canada. He didn't even bother to find out. I was cheering for Team USA. I was just being honest with it. You're right. Folks, if you take nothing from this call, forget your business. Take this into your life. Be confident and be humble. It's not a one or the other. And Bob, you described it so well. I have strong opinions, yet I'm willing to listen because some of them might be changed if you have something truly better.
Chad, as we come to a close here today, what I would tell people is like, look around and are you forcing yourself to make one of these false choices in your business, in your life? And, maybe ask yourself, like, what would it look like for what would the both version of that look like, Chad? Right? What would it look like? Maybe not forever. What about for the next 30 days? If instead of deciding you had to either, work on growing your business or improving your systems, like what if you just tried for the next 30 days to do both? And in that environment, I would say just go find one thing, one system in your business that you want to go tweak as you continue to focus on growing it. Like take one of these false choices and just see what happens over the next 30 days if you make it an and instead of an or.
Bob, so well said. I'm so glad you brought this episode to us. Folks, you can subscribe to Win, Make, Give to make sure you don't miss an episode. And you can also share it with someone else who should listen. It's not a one or the other. It's a both. You get Bob Stewart and Chad Hyams. It's not an either or. Although, if it was, who would you pick? Come into our Facebook. No, I'm not putting that post out there. We don't want to know.
Neither Chad nor I are humble enough to know the answer to that one.
We can't take that. It would hurt our feelings way too much. Folks, as always, we're here to help you while we're helping ourselves. So we're hoping you continue to come along for the journey. Until our next episode, as always, do good,